So, I want you to just imagine a population that's actually larger than New York City.
Right.
But in this entire population, not a single person has a local church to go to.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard to even wrap your mind around that.
It really is. I mean, we're talking about over 11 million people just living their entire lives in this total spiritual vacuum. So, welcome to the Missions Connect Deep Dive podcast.
Blessing the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience.
Exactly. And the entire purpose of our time today is to really prepare your mind and your heart for the upcoming week. We're going to be using the weekly preview for week 16, which covers April 13th through the 19th, 2026.
Right. And just as a quick reminder, Missions Connect is a Bible-based and, missions-focused devotional and prayer app. It's a really vital ministry of assistingtoobey.com.
Yeah, and today we are going on a pretty intense journey. I mean, we're moving from like 11 million unreached souls in South Asia to the really dark reality of organized persecution, and then finally to this historic convergence of war and Holy Week in the Middle East.
Yeah, we're really looking at a powerful overarching theme in this week's material, which is invisible borders.
Oh, I like that phrasing.
Yeah, we're going to explore these deeply entrenched cultural borders, keeping the gospel out of South Asia, and then the weaponized legal borders trapping persecuted believers who are already there, and finally the explosive collapse of geopolitical borders in the Middle East, as war collides directly with Holy Week.
It's just a profound scope of human experience. Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting in Pakistan's Punjab province, specifically looking at this massive group of people known as the Arain Muslims.
Right, and the Arain, they represent one of the absolute most urgent prayer burdens in the global church today. I mean, in missiological terms, the Joshua Project classifies them as a frontier unreached people group.
And what does that mean practically? Like, put a metric on that for us.
Yeah, so it means fewer than 1 in 1,000 of these individuals identify as Christian in any way.
Oh, wow.
But the reality on the ground for the Arain is actually much starker than that. I mean, they are essentially 100% Muslim. There is zero known evangelical presence. No indigenous church.
None at all.
No, like literally no historical footprint of Christianity among them whatsoever.
Wait, I really struggle to understand this because, we hear the word unreached and we immediately picture like remote, isolated villages completely cut off from modern civilization.
Right. You think of people who just haven't had physical access to the outside world.
Exactly. But the weekly preview specifically notes that while the Arain are, an agricultural people, they're also highly educated. I mean, they're lawyers, politicians, university students.
Yeah, they're incredibly influential.
Right. These are people of immense influence in the modern world. They have the internet. They have global business ties. I mean, if they have access to the exact same information we do, how does a group so integrated into the modern fabric of Pakistan remain completely untouched by the gospel? Like, is it an act of rejection?
What's fascinating here is the actual mechanics of their social structure. It isn't a geographical barrier keeping the gospel out at all. It's an impenetrable identity barrier.
Oh, okay. Explain that.
Well, the Punjab is actually the most educated and politically influential province in Pakistan. Yet it has the absolute least gospel penetration among its Muslim majority. And it's because the Arain hold on to this incredibly deep-rooted pride in their Islamic identity.
Because of their lineage, right?
Exactly. They claim a direct Arab lineage that stretches all the way back to the 7th century, to the very origins of Islam in the region.
So their religion isn't just some set of theological beliefs they happen to agree with. It's like their entire heritage. It's their bloodline and their social currency.
That is the absolute core of the issue. I mean, to step away from Islam to follow Christ, it isn't just changing your mind about theology. In their culture, it's essentially amputating yourself from your family.
Wow.
You lose your business network, your marriage prospects, your history.
Yeah.
You basically become a total social pariah.
That is intense.
Yeah, and that level of intense familial surveillance makes it almost impossible for someone to openly explore other faiths. But, our notes for this week highlight some really clever, unexpected bridges being built to bypass that.
Yes, the digital platforms. This honestly blew my mind when I read it. Like, God is using modern technology to basically tunnel under a 7th century cultural wall.
Yeah, because of that heavy social cost we just talked about, digital gospel tools have really become the front line. Audio Bibles are now available in Western Punjabi through organizations like Faith Comes by Hearing.
Which is just amazing.
Think about how that practically changes the game, right? A young Arain University student can download an audio file to a smartphone, put in a pair of earbuds, and just listen to the Gospel of John while walking through a crowded market in Lahore.
And absolutely no one around him knows what he's doing.
Exactly. It creates this private, safe space for the Holy Spirit to work, completely bypassing the public scrutiny of the community.
That is such a vivid picture of how the gospel it adapts to find a way. The weekly preview also mentions that the Jesus film is translated into their language now. And there are these diaspora communities, right?
Right, Arain people who have moved away from Pakistan for work or education.
Yeah, and they're suddenly free from that intense homeland pressure,
Yeah.
and they're showing a new openness. But, I mean, even with these digital tools, the human need outlined in the preview is just staggering. It estimates that 234 pioneer missionaries are needed just to begin the foundational work of church planting among these 11 million people.
Yeah, 234.
It's just a massive need.
And that number, that's actually Monday's specific prayer focus. We are interceding for those 234 workers to be raised up, equipped, and sent. And the prayer is anchored directly in Psalm 2, verse 8.
Oh, I love that verse.
Yeah, it commands, "Ask me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession." It's this beautiful reminder that these 11 million people are not forgotten. They are an inheritance waiting to be claimed.
That quiet, invisible cultural border keeping the Arain unreached, it really mirrors a very different, very visible kind of frontline reality we see elsewhere in Pakistan.
It really does.
Because while the Arain have almost zero Christian presence, there are actually about 4 million Christians living in Pakistan, and they are caught behind a brutal legal border, paying an unimaginable price just to survive.
Yeah, and before we dive into this, it's really important to say that looking at these geopolitical hotspots, our goal today isn't to take political sides or debate foreign policy. We're just looking at the raw data provided in the weekly preview, specifically through a humanitarian and spiritual lens, so we know exactly how to pray.
Right, exactly. We are impartially reporting what's in the preview, and the data regarding the Pakistani church is incredibly heavy.
It is. The country currently ranks 8th on Open Doors 2026 World Watch List for Christian persecution.
Number 8 in the world.
Yeah. And the primary engine driving this violence isn't just random bigotry. It's actually codified into law. We really have to understand sections 295B and 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code.
Those are the blasphemy laws.
Yes. They carry mandatory death sentences or life imprisonment for insulting Islam or the Prophet Muhammad.
But the tragedy isn't just the severity of the law, right? It's the complete lack of evidentiary requirement.
Exactly. An accusation alone is often enough to secure an arrest. Or, honestly worse, to incite a mob before the police even arrive.
And reading through the preview, the detail that absolutely stopped me in my tracks was the revelation of how systemic this has become. I mean, this isn't just organic neighborhood extremism. It is organized crime.
Oh, absolutely.
The preview highlights a blasphemy business group that was exposed in 2025. This syndicate literally fabricated blasphemy charges against more than 400 people, and reports indicated that federal investigators were actually complicit in the network.
When you look at the mechanics of how this works, it is chilling. If someone wants, say, a piece of land owned by a Christian family, or if a business rival wants to eliminate a Christian competitor,
They don't have to buy them out.
no, they just plant a torn page of a Quran near their property. Or they claim they overheard an insult, they pay off the right people, the accusation is formalized, and the Christian is either arrested or forced to flee for their life.
And then the accuser just swoops in and takes the property.
Exactly. It is real estate acquisition and financial extortion executed through state-sanctioned terror.
Which brings us to the human faces behind these statistics. We really have to talk about Ishtiaq Salim.
Yes, his story is heartbreaking.
He is a 34-year-old Christian sanitation worker and a father. And right now, as we record this, he is sitting in a prison cell awaiting a death penalty verdict on blasphemy charges.
And his family insists the entire situation was entirely fabricated.
Totally fabricated. He was just doing his job, trying to put food on the table, and now his life is entirely on the line.
Ishtiaq's situation is tragically common, because his vulnerability is compounded by his social status. The Christian community in Pakistan is largely relegated to the absolute lowest paying, most socially degrading jobs.
Right. Sanitation work is overwhelmingly pushed onto Christians.
Exactly. And beyond that, many are trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty and bonded labor, particularly in the brick kilns.
Let's expand on that for a second, because, I mean, bonded labor sounds like a historical term. But it is happening right now in 2026. From what I understand from the preview, it operates almost exactly like a predatory payday loan system,
That's a
right?
really good comparison, yeah.
Like a family has a medical emergency, so they borrow money from the kiln owner, and they agree to pay it back by making bricks, getting paid this tiny piece rate per 1,000 bricks.
That is the exact mechanism. But the math is rigged. The interest on the loan compounds faster than human hands can physically mold and bake the bricks.
So they never catch up.
Never. They work 14-hour days in the blistering heat, but the debt only grows. And the darkest part of this mechanism is that the debt is inherited.
Oh, man.
If a father dies, the debt passes to his children, who are then born into literal servitude. Entire generations of Christian families are mathematically locked into modern-day slavery.
It is horrific, and the systemic abuse gets even darker when we look at what is happening to the young women in these marginalized communities. The data outlines an absolute crisis of forced conversion and the abduction of Christian girls.
Yeah, an estimated 1,000 minority girls are taken from their families every single year.
1,000 girls.
And this forces us to look at the legal system's willingness, or really lack thereof, to protect its most vulnerable citizens. The weekly preview points to a highly controversial, devastating ruling from just last month, March 2026.
Right, the Maria Shabazz case.
Yes, the Federal Constitutional Court officially upheld the so-called marriage of a 13-year-old Christian girl named Maria Shabazz to a 40-year-old Muslim man.
He's just sickening.
This wasn't a secret ceremony. It was a judicially sanctioned abduction, and it sparked massive, desperate protests from the Christian community across Pakistan.
A 13-year-old child. I mean, you hear a statistic like 1,000 girls a year, and it feels abstract, almost numbingly terrible. But then you hear the name Maria Shabazz. You think of her age, you think of her parents, and it just shatters your heart.
It really does.
This is exactly why Tuesday and Wednesday's prayer focuses are intensely dedicated to Ishtiaq, Maria, and all the nameless believers suffering under these weaponized laws and systemic abuses. The preview anchors this heavy burden in Psalm 82, verse 3.
Defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed.
Yeah. But, even amidst this staggering oppression, the resilience of the Pakistani church is just remarkable.
Oh, absolutely. Believers there are still actively sharing the gospel in highly radicalized neighborhoods at immense personal risk. They refuse to merely be victims. They're bold, active witnesses for Christ in the absolute darkest of circumstances.
That quiet, defiant courage in the brick kilns and courtrooms of Pakistan, it actually mirrors a different kind of frontline resilience we are seeing right now in the Middle East.
Yeah, a very different context, but the same faith.
Right. We are watching global geopolitical borders collapse, and faith is colliding directly with an active, explosive war zone.
So we're moving from the organized, localized legal persecution in South Asia to an international military conflict in Israel. And obviously the scale and the immediate danger are entirely different, but the spiritual implications are just as profound.
Yeah, so set the timeline for us, because Week 16 of the app is falling during a convergence that is honestly unprecedented in modern history. I mean, we are looking at the observance of Holy Week, the celebration of Passover, and the 2026 Iran war all converging at the exact same moment.
Yeah, the timeline is crucial to understand the atmosphere in the region right now. For the first time in Israel's modern history, the nation found itself under direct, sustained missile attack from the Iranian regime itself.
Unbelievable.
And this current, intense phase of the conflict was ignited by coordinated United States and Israeli military strikes on Iran, starting February 28, 2026.
It seems like the escalation from those initial strikes was just blindingly fast.
It was an immediate chain reaction. I mean, weeks of intense warfare followed, leaving thousands dead and triggering mass displacement across the broader region. We saw the Strait of Hormuz severely disrupted, which obviously sent shockwaves through global trade and energy markets.
Right, it affects everyone.
And finally, just a few days ago, on April 8th, a fragile 2-week ceasefire was announced. But as the preview notes, the ink is barely dry, and that ceasefire is already showing severe signs of strain.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because everyone sees the news headlines about the geopolitics, the missile defense systems, the economic fallout, right? But the preview takes us past the headlines and down to the spiritual reality on the street.
Which is what we really care about here.
Exactly. I mean, how do you process the theological weight of Resurrection Sunday or the miraculous deliverance of the Exodus when you were literally waiting for an air raid siren to go off?
The war fundamentally alters the mechanics of how these sacred days are observed. The security situation is so tenuous that Israeli police had to negotiate a highly restricted, very limited arrangement just to allow basic Easter services to proceed at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem.
Wow, just have a basic service.
Yeah. And in the meantime, the Western Wall and the Temple Mount, which is the spiritual epicenter for millions, they remain completely closed off for security reasons.
That is just wild to think about.
You have Jewish families observing Passover, which is a holiday entirely centered on God's miraculous deliverance from the angel of death in Egypt, while literally huddled in concrete safe rooms as military drones pass overhead. I mean, the juxtaposition is staggering.
It is a surreal reality. But, the weekly preview highlights something quite beautiful emerging from the rubble of this conflict. Amidst the trauma and the physical destruction, there is an unprecedented spiritual openness among the people.
Yeah, trauma strips away illusions. The preview indicates that this war has systematically dismantled a lot of the secular self-reliance that often characterizes modern Israeli society.
That makes a lot of sense.
When the physical borders are breached and the technological defenses aren't enough, citizens and soldiers alike are forced to ask deep, existential questions about life, death, and eternity.
They're looking for real answers.
Exactly. There is a palpable hunger for hope, and the local Messianic Jewish and Arab Christian congregations inside Israel are ministering right on the front lines of that trauma.
They are the ones providing the theological and emotional triage. So this Passover season, observed literally under fire, could ultimately become one of the most spiritually significant moments for the gospel in Israel's modern history.
It really could.
That is exactly why Thursday and Friday's prayer points in the app are so critical. Thursday, we are interceding specifically for those Messianic and Arab Christian congregations. We are praying for their physical protection, yes, but more importantly, for the boldness and clarity of their witness.
Amen.
And Friday, we are praying for the peace of Jerusalem, specifically quoting Psalm 122, verse 6. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you be secure.
We are praying for the stability of that fragile April 8th ceasefire, for the protection of millions of innocent civilians caught in the crossfire, and ultimately that the eyes of the Jewish people would be open to recognize their Messiah during this incredibly dark and disorienting time.
So let's take a breath and look at what we have covered today. We have journeyed through the invisible cultural borders, isolating 11 million unreached Arain Muslims. We have analyzed the weaponized blasphemy laws, the systemic extortion, and the abducted daughters in Pakistan. And we have stood in the tension of Holy Week under missile fire in Israel.
It's a lot.
It is. I have to ask you directly. When you, meaning the listener, when you are faced with this massive scale of human suffering and spiritual need, how do we keep from feeling completely paralyzed? Like, what is the preview asking you to actually do with all this heavy information?
That is the most important question we can ask, because taking in this level of global trauma without an actionable outlet just leads to severe anxiety and eventual apathy.
A burnout.
Right. The entire design of the Missions Connect app is to move you from passive information consumption into structured, authoritative intercession.
And that brings us to the 12-minute challenge, which I think is absolutely brilliant. It makes the overwhelming scale of global missions highly accessible.
So accessible.
The challenge is asking you to commit just 12 minutes a day to this work. That breaks down to 4 minutes intensely focused on the Arain people, 4 minutes on the persecuted believers in Pakistan, and 4 minutes on the conflict and the congregations in Israel.
And, if your day is absolutely packed, you can open the app and simply listen to and agree with the 4 to 5 minute pre-recorded prayer of the day, which synthesizes all three focuses perfectly.
The goal is consistency over duration, right?
Exactly. And for those who feel stirred to engage even further, the preview offers several bonus challenges. These are tangible physical steps to anchor your prayers in reality.
Like what?
For instance, before you pray for the Arain on Monday, go to the Joshua Project website, search for People ID 16228, and spend 5 minutes just studying their faces, their history, and their culture.
Putting a human face to the statistics changes everything about how you pray.
It really does. Another bonus challenge is to take the story of Ishtiaq Salim, the sanitation worker sitting on death row for a fabricated crime, and intentionally share his story with just one person this week.
Oh, wow.
Speak his name out loud. Ask that person to join you in praying for his release and his family's safety.
That is powerful.
You are also challenged to pray Psalm 122, verse 6, aloud every single day this week over the Middle East. And perhaps the most demanding yet profound challenge offered is to fast One meal this week.
Just one meal.
Yeah, take the 30 minutes you would have spent preparing and eating food and use that physical hunger as a prompt to intercede specifically for Pakistan's abducted Christian daughters, like 13-year-old Maria Shabazz.
Actions like fasting tether our physical bodies to the spiritual realities we are praying for. And to ensure our entire week remains tethered to Scripture, the app provides daily devotionals. I want to just highlight Wednesday's focus really quickly, which draws from Romans 10, verse 14.
A classic.
How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them?
That passage is basically the ultimate mechanism of missions. It reminds us of our role in the supply chain of the gospel, right? We are the ones interceding so that others are empowered to go. And we are praying so that the hearts of the hearers are softened before the messengers even arrive.
Beautifully said.
When we pray for those 234 pioneer workers needed for the Arain, we are actively participating in Romans 10, verse 14.
So what does this all mean? We have crossed continents and cultures today, but whether we are discussing the deeply entrenched pride of the Arain Muslims in the Punjab, or the fierce resilience of Christian brickyard workers mathematically trapped in debt in Pakistan, or the Messianic congregations sheltering in concrete safe rooms from Iranian missiles in Israel, it is not three separate stories.
No, it's not.
It is one unified burden. It is the story of the global church.
And as we close, I want to draw your attention to a truly provocative thought from the final pages of our notes this week. It states simply that God is waiting to be asked.
Wow.
Think about the immense theological weight of that idea. Intercession is not just a coping mechanism. It is an active partnership with the creator of the universe. If the sovereign God who commands history is truly waiting for his people to ask, how might dedicating just 12 minutes a day to these specific, verified global crises fundamentally shift not just the spiritual atmosphere over Pakistan and Israel, but your own daily priorities? How does knowing that God is waiting for your voice change your worldview tomorrow morning?
What a staggering responsibility and privilege. God is waiting to be asked. So let's ask. That wraps up our deep dive for today. I strongly encourage you to take the immediate next step. Download the web-based app by clicking the link in the description of this deep dive or by directly visiting assistingtoobey.com.
Yes, please do.
Get the daily prayers, read the devotionals, and join thousands of believers in this critical history-shaping work.
And as you engage with the app and commit those 12 minutes, just remember that you are stepping into God's oldest covenant promise. You're being blessed with this knowledge in order to be a blessing to the nations.
Well said. Make sure to follow the Assisting to Obey social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to stay updated and connected with this incredible community of intercessors around the world. Thank you so much for giving us your time, your focus, and most importantly, your prayers. Remember those 11 million souls, remember the persecuted, and remember Jerusalem. Have a blessed and powerful week, everyone.
So, you want a faith that actually matters, right? You want to make a difference in the world, to see the gospel changing lives, to know that your walk with God and His Word is impacting more than just your own life. Yeah, you want your life to count for the nations. But here's the thing. You're busy, maybe overwhelmed. You're pulled in 20 different directions. And even though you want to engage in missions and the Great Commission, you don't always know what to pray for, what's happening globally, or what your next step should be. The desire to obey is there, but the pathway isn't always clear. Let the Missions Connect app show you the way. Every day, you'll get a missions-focused devotional with a simple, practical action step and an option to share with the Missions Connect community. Every week, you get 3 strategic prayer focuses with fresh daily text and audio prayers, so you're never guessing about what to pray for. And when you're ready, you'll find opportunities to actually get involved in God's global work. Everything in the devotional and prayer section is free forever, but we offer you the opportunity to try the premium version for 15 days. You want to impact the nations with the gospel? With Missions Connect, now you can. Missions Connect, helping you bless the nations through prayer, knowledge, and obedience. a ministry of assisting to obey.com.